I'm Alejandra Perez for Siouxland Public Media News. The World Cup is the world's international soccer tournament and is held every 4 years in a different country. The first World Cup was held in 1930 and included men's teams from 13 countries. Today, 48 national teams are participating. However, the World Cup is not just about the sport. To people, it is about national pride, identity, unity, and shared humanity. This year's World Cup is unique for 2 reasons. 1, it's not only being played in 1 country, but 3, the United States, Mexico, and Canada. 2, Jordan will participate in the tournament for the first time ever. I spoke to Dr. Iyad Najdawi about what it means to him that Jordan has this opportunity to play in the tournament and what the World Cup means to him.
I am Iyad Najdawi. I am a physician that worked for the Children's Hospital, Children's Nebraska, and the University of Nebraska. And I live in the Sioux City area for the last 29 years. Number 1, by the way, it's a historic milestone. That's number 1. And for many Jordanians, it represents years of effort and development, and which is finally paying off. But beyond football, it's a moment of national pride, to be honest, and international recognition. It sends the message that Jordan can compete on the world's biggest stage and achieve goals that once seemed out of reach and out of the status and the size of the country. It's a huge milestone for all of us. I'm talking about the Jordanians, but in particular, me as a person that lives outside the country, I feel like this is something that gives me a lot of pride. That's exactly where it is. It's a historic milestone. I mean, you have to remember that the resources that Jordan has is limited. So it is all pulling yourself by your bootstraps, pretty much, because of it's all hard work on the people without a lot of resources. And this is what makes it special. It makes it special that, even though you don't have the resources that the others have, you can achieve something that is bigger than you, which is being part of this huge event that I am sure that you are well aware of its gravity.
Najdawi said that he is proud of Jordan's team members for their hard work and achievement. He is proud that the players are not only raising the flag, but representing the people of Jordan on a world stage. Najdawi also mentioned how it's not just about the sport. It's about nations, histories, traditions, cultures, and identities coming together with elite competition. He said another thing that gets overlooked is the stories of the players.
Another thing sometimes that is stories, when you look at the players coming from a poor background, I mean, you hear about those people all the time, that their parents couldn't afford buying them shoes to play soccer, coming from all those poor countries. And now that they are in the world stage and making money, and they're using that money to go back and help their parents and helping their country. I mean, you cannot use this story as a huge success for humanity in general and for that country in particular.
One of the examples of what Najdawi is talking about is Mohamed Salah, who is not only a player for Liverpool, but also for the Egyptian national team. According to the Borjan Project, Salah donated a large amount of food to his hometown in Egypt to help those who were impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. That wasn't the only thing he contributed. Salah has donated to hospitals, gave land to establish a sewer treatment plant, and helped connect students with education opportunities. During our conversation, we talked about how some countries that are facing hardships use the World Cup as a symbol of hope. By watching teams play, people feel unity.
I would say, the World Cup in general is not simply about who lifts the trophy, to be honest. It's about giving people a reason to believe. And it's one of the things that gives me a reason to believe in what a small country can do. And it's about giving people a reason to believe because for a few weeks, millions of people see the possibility instead of limitations, and unity instead of division, and hope instead of uncertainty. So, in spite of the fact that we are and we continue to be in the middle of conflict after a conflict after a conflict, but at least for a few weeks, you start having that sense of unity and sense of pride, and that I think that this is the tournament's greatest victory. Is not, I mean, yes, winning is important, but there's so many other impacts on all of us, and in particular on a person like me who lives outside the country and watching on the TV the national team standing on the biggest stage and raising the flag and rallying behind group of kids that practically speaking has been working hard to achieve. I mean, it's something hard to describe. This is a milestone. That's why I started with a milestone. I mean, at least we are here. Now, do we want to be beyond here? Yes, of course we want to be beyond here. We want to be on the top. But at the same time, we cannot minimize, we have to enjoy the moment that we are in, which is basically that we achieved a milestone. I mean, it's, sometimes you have wishful thinkings, but at the same time, sometimes the reality will be different, and that's okay. But at least part of your dream has been achieved, and you need to work harder to achieve the full dream.
Najdawi brought up how in the 1970s, ping pong brought a breakthrough in political relationships between China and the United States, adding that sports can be a vehicle to bring people together.
Just imagine the World Cup, which is the biggest event in the world that attracts the attention of billions of people simultaneously at the same time. And it allows individuals to see themselves as part of something larger than their daily lives. Very important to remember that people may come from different backgrounds, but for a few weeks, they rally around a shared identity, shared hope, and shared dreams. That collective experience creates a powerful emotional connection. It's more than just playing the game. It's so many cultures coming together, and some countries that in the United States people never knew that it does exist. And they see their flag, they see the people, cheering for them and whatnot. It just introduced us, going back to your question, introducing us as Jordanians, as a country, to the world through football.
According to the International Federation of Football Association, Iran has qualified for 7 World Cups in the past. It also qualified to play in the 2026 tournament. However, due to the conflict with Iran, the team's participation has become a difficult task. According to the American Immigration Council, the team will play on U.S. soil, but has moved their training base camp from Tucson, Arizona to Mexico. The council also says the team will be required to enter and exit the country the same day of their games. It also stated that Iran's Football Federation said tickets for their fans have been revoked by FIFA. I asked Najdawi what his thoughts were on Iran still participating in the World Cup.
Yeah, to be honest with you, we can have our differences, and we will. We will continue to have our differences. However, I think when it comes down to an event like this, we have just to look at those individuals as a human beings that are competing on a world stage, and they have the same inspirations, they have the same of living in peace and living in a world where everybody gets valued and respected. I don't think this should be looked at as a battlefield in the sense of a battlefield with weapons and whatnot. It should be looked as a battlefield where humanity is competing and rallying around one thing, which is basically coming together and competing in peaceful manner. In my opinion, this can be a vehicle for a potential lasting peace. I don't think this one event is going to do it, but at least it might give the spark for future agreements and living in peace and harmony. I mean, it has always been the case, by the way. World Cup has always been a case where the differences for those few weeks, the differences is put aside and just compete on a national stage. Your question is not, by the way, has been posted before in so many forms, not only between Iran and the United States or Iran and whatever the world. It has been posted, when China was closed country. It has been posted so many times when the Soviet Union existed, and that question was posted too. So I think history teaches us that the World Cup in particular can be a good time to try to put away your differences and have that celebration, big celebration, the global community coming together, rallying behind one thing.
According to the Jordan Football Association, the team's base camp is in Portland, Oregon. One of the team players noted that participation in this global sporting event represents an important opportunity to highlight the positive and honorable image of Jordan on the international stage. According to the FIFA website, Jordan's qualification for the World Cup alone guarantees the Jordan Football Association a minimum payout of about $12.5 million. The team plans to use the funds to support youth programs and infrastructure development.
I think the way that the subject should be presented, it should be presented as a conference for the people to come together and the greatest victory. And that's my thing. And I'm just, as I said, because I'm emotionally attached to this cup because of Jordan being part of it. But at the same time, I look at this as hopefully it highlights that it is a reason for people to believe, and it's putting those millions of people in the column of possibility instead of limitations. As you said, there are countries that are rich and they can afford this and they can afford this and afford this, and yet they will not be able to make it. And there are countries that does not have many resources and they make it to there. This is what needs to be highlighted instead of, oh, look at this, the stadium looks great and whatnot. I'm just hoping that there will be the third dimension of this tournament will be the highlight of it. People just look at it and say, oh, it's the World Cup. Well, it's more than the World Cup.
According to FIFA, during the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, 5 billion fans across all media watched the tournament. During the final match between Argentina and France, the viewership was the highest at 1.42 billion viewers. The average global live audience of the FIFA World Cup in Qatar was 175 million viewers. Najdawi told me he has been a longtime fan of the World Cup, which led me to ask him, since he was not able to cheer on Jordan, what team has he been rooting for? This was his answer.
Oh, that's interesting question. By the way, you have to remember that Brazil, Germany, Argentina has always been countries that tend to have a super athletes. And for example, Brazil, if you take the history of Pelé, and what he did in the 60s and 70s. I mean, this is a human being that puts Brazil on the map single-handedly by his skills in soccer. So just to let you know how impactful this can be. And now, once you mention Brazil, you always mention Pele and you always mention football. Same thing applies, by the way, on Mexico. Same thing applies on most of Latin America's countries that are even small countries that are not mentioned in the news. They start being mentioned in the news during the World Cup. So, sometimes it's you watch the games and you see how the people plays, and then you feel like, oh, I just like this how this team plays, and this is when you start rallying behind somebody. But this year, obviously, this World Cup, Jordan is going to be number 1, 2, and 3 or 4, and the number 10 on my list that I will be cheering for sure.
Toward the end of our conversation, Dr. Najdawi talked about how while his sons were growing up, they would watch the World Cup together. He said he is unsure what contributed to his son's fondness for the sport, as each of them played soccer at one point in their lives. Najdawi says he is planning to have conversations with his sons after watching some of the games. The first games of the tournament started on Thursday, with Mexico and South Korea each winning against their opponents. I talked with Dr. Najdawi about the World Cup, what it means to him, and how it represents so much more than just being a sport. We also talked about how it can bring families together. I'm Alejandra Perez for Siouxland Public Media News.